Fine. Okay, thank you. So we're going to discuss a very interesting thing called, the current event, but we have to give the background of what happened during the history and what the real hashkafas HaTorah, hashkafas, the real way to think, to look at things. So let's start from the fact that we are in Golus. And the reason that we are in Golus, as we said, mipnei chatoenu golinu me'artzenu. It's no one to blame but ourselves. We didn't do right. Hashem told us, I'm going to give you the holy land, the Eretz Yisrael, but it required that you will be holy. So we know that Bayis Rishon was destroyed because of Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayos, and Shfichus Damim. And Bayis Sheni was not better. And they both destroyed, and we went to Golus. So this Golus, after Bayis Sheni, is very, very long Golus. And during all this time, we had the hope, because the Nevi'im said that the Golus, as hard as it will be temporary. At the end, Hashem promised in few places that He will bring us back to Eretz Yisrael. V'shav Hashem et Elokecha et shvutcha v'richamecha, and that's what every Jew said 3 times a day. Tka b'shofar gadol lecharuseinu. So we know that now this is the idea. This is the thing. We are in Golus. It's like, and the Nevi'im make this mashal, like a person who committed a crime and was judged and was put to jail. And this person has to be in jail according to what the judge decides. There is no way that the prisoner in the jail will decide after a while, okay, it's enough. I think it's enough for me, I want to go out. And he will just decide like this and go out. Again, the right hashkafa, that Hashem is supervising everything, and Hashem sent us to Golus. It's not up to us to end the Golus. And that the idea, and that was the idea, and that should be the idea, but we have to take into account a big event that was very, very significant. And this is the French Revolution. And the era after it, when the Enlightenment, what they call Enlightenment, which is the most dark thing that happened, that people in Europe, let's say the Goyim in Europe, decided to end the corruption of the Christian church, and that was the reason of the entire revolution in Europe, the French Revolution. But right after that, the Jews in Europe, especially in Germany, decided to go on this train and say, okay, it's a new world, let's do, and they did. And Maaseh Satan make it so successful. What the Goyim did to the Christian church in a full right, the Jews did to Judaism, to Yiddishkeit, in a very wrong way. And actually over there they established the movement of Kfirah within the Jewish people, and I could tell you that it never happened before. Never happened before what happened by what's called the Enlightenment. What do I mean? If you look at the Tanakh, you'll see in the Nevi'im at the time of Bayis Rishon, even before Bayis Rishon, that not always everyone did the mitzvahs the way it is. The Nevi'im came and warn about, or say you're wrong, you're doing Avodah Zarah, you're doing this and that, Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayos, Shfichus Damim. But never ever in the history was any idea of Jews to deny Hashem, that Hashem is not there. Never. The proof is very, very simple. The worst time of Avodah Zarah at the history of the Jewish nation was at the time of Achav and Izebel. You should remember the story of Eliyahu Hanavi in Har HaKarmel, right? So he made the debate against those Kohanei Abal and the Asherah. What he said to the Jewish people at the time? He told them the following: עד מתי אתם פוסחים על שני הסעיפים? How long you could go and dance on both weddings? You have to choose. אם השם הוא האלוקים, לכו אחריו, ואם הבעל הוא האלוקים, לכו אחריו. Meaning that at the time they were doing both things. They're going in Shabbos to shul, and so to say, Sunday to the church. Right? It was before Christianity, but I'm just saying this. I mean, they hoard this and this. That wasn't the worst time, worst time of the Jewish nation not following what Hashem. So even at the time, they never denied Hashem, and they even did the mitzvahs, but they also did what the Asherah and the Baal and all the other stuff did. And that change, and this is the biggest tragedy that happened to the Jewish nation. It started from Berlin by the time of the Enlightenment, that they decide from now a Jew should not be committed to Har Sinai, to the Torah, to the mitzvahs, to Hashem. You could be a Jew without it. They thought that this way they will solve the problem of anti-Semitism. The assumption was, you know why they hate us, the Goyim? Because we look different. We look different, we eat different, we dress different, we are not with them. Let's be like them. And this way, they respect us. It was so wrong. That caused extra anti-Semitism. They never will succeed about this. And the Goyim did not accept them. If anything, it was just the opposite. They hate them even more. Then, few decades after the Enlightenment, come another idea, wrong idea. Again, to solve the anti-Semitism, we thought that if we be like the Goyim, they will love us. No, they do not. So, we realize what's the problem. We do not have a country. We are mixed all over. We do not have a land from ourselves. And that's how Zionism started. So you have to know, Zionism was direct continuation of the Enlightenment, of the Koifrim of the Enlightenment. They didn't build the Medina for fulfill the Nevuah of Kibbutz Goliath. That was not in their mind at all. In fact, they thought or considered to make the Medina in Uganda, in Argentina. It wasn't they discussed this. So they thought that if we will have a land and we will bring the Jews there, that will solve the anti-Semitism. So they did. And they were wrong again. The anti-Semitism didn't just vanish after the Medina was established. In fact, it was just worse. All the anti-Semitism in the world now going through the Medina. So, first of all, what we learn from this? Don't play games with Hashem. Hashem has his plans. You could not, and we are stubborn. Hashem just give us this title after Chet HaEgel. ראיתי את העם הזה והנה עם קשה עורף הוא. Stubborn. And we didn't learn anything. We tried to play games with Hashem. The 10 tribes, Aseret HaShvatim, was going to exile by the Assyrians. 130 years after that, the destruction of Bais Rishon. Another chance for Bais Sheni, then become the Hellenism, the Misyavnim, and all of this. And Hashem sent us twice, as He said clearly. Yishamru lachem pen yifte levavchem. We said it every time in Shema. Yishamru lachem pen yifte levavchem. V'sartem v'avadetem Elohim acherim. V'avadetem e'era ve'al haaretz. I'll send you away. You will not stay in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is a holy place. The Jewish people should be a holy nation. If you holy, you will stay in the Holy Land. If not, you will go to the exile. So, what we have to relate a little bit is to what was the reaction after the beginning movement of Zionism, which started from complete koifrim. Koifrim, people who marry goyim. I will not even mention the names. I don't know if it's mutter bichlal in shul. Okay, all those koifrim, they decided again to build a land for the Jewish nation in order to save them from anti-Semitism. So they are completely out. Problem was, what was the hashkafa of the frum people to this phenomena? So in the beginning, everyone realized that if you're frum, you could not cooperate with such a thing. It's a kfirah. Later on, few Rabbanim that they were naive enough to think, you know what, let's cooperate with them. We will come to their land because it's holy, because we want to put Torah in. And they will do whatever they want. And later on, from that come the Mizrahi, which the Dati Leumi, if you know, familiar with this thing. And until today, there is a movement in Eretz Yisrael of frum Jews who are Zionists. The vast majority of the frum community did not cooperate. But after the Medina was established, was also a machloikes. After it's b'diavad there, how do we gonna react? So the vast majority of the frum community in Eretz Yisrael today started from the Chazon Ish, and they said, you know what, for sure that's not the right thing, but we are here, let's take care of our people and cooperate, not because we believe in the Medina, but because we have to take care of our people. That was the idea of the vast majority of the frum people today in Eretz Yisrael, from the establishment of the Medina until now. As you know, I don't have to say it over here, the Satmar Rebbe, and not just him, but he was the main one, not just him, the Briskerov also, realized that this is completely wrong. You could not cooperate with them altogether because it's going to have some effect on the frum people. So it's hard to say. I mean, it's Gedolim, what we can do. I'm not the one to decide. But as an Israeli who was born in Eretz Yisrael, grew up in Eretz Yisrael, after I was aware of what's going on, I become, not, again, I was exposed to Vayoel Moshe later on, after I got my conclusions. And I got to those conclusions myself, from seeing what's going on. The entire idea is corrupt. The entire idea is wrong. And you know what? You just need sometimes to see how the sheker could not exist. I don't know how much you're familiar with what's going on right now in Eretz Yisrael. But what's going on right now is just the beginning of the collapse. The entire thing, according to what I think, estimate, I'm not a Navi, I don't know, it's going to end soon. There is a very, very strong fight. It will be a real war between them. Between the left and the right, they're all wrong. The right is not right, the left for sure is not. But it's going, the entire thing is going to be ruined. Anyways, let me show you some sources. I don't know, even though that you belong to, some of you, to Satmar, I don't know if you really learn in depth by Yoel Moshe and all the sources. So let me give you some sources that he mentioned over there, but I put them together because I'm giving this kind of shiur, or not just that kind of shiur, many other shiurim, to very different people, different kind of people. Jewish, not from. So always they have to give it in a different way, depend who's the crowd, okay? So let's learn some Torah, some Tanakh. We have to know in general that the Tanakh is not a story book. It's not a history book. The right way to look at the Tanakh is Hashem dictate or give the Nevi'im. The entire Tanakh was written Beruach HaKodesh. And the amazing thing about the Tanakh is we do not see Hashem. We know Hashem exists. We know that there is supervision, but we do not see it. Right? The Tanakh, the entire Tanakh described the thing that happened at the time. Hashem gave everyone a free will. Free will means free. He doesn't involved with this, Hashem. He gave you a free will. But he told you, free will has consequences. Whatever you do, there are consequences. So, we know how people choose during the time of the Tanakh. We know the history, what happened to them. But the Nevi'im give us the perspective of Hashem to what's happening. This is the entire Tanakh. The entire Tanakh is to tell us how Hashem running his world. How he reacts to this kind of Bechira, this kind of Bechira. So let's start from a pasuk in Tehillim. This pasuk speaks about an event that not many people know about unless you really learn Torah with Midrashim in depth. Okay? This is the pasuk in Tehillim. Perek Ayin Chet. I read it in my accent. I'm an Israeli, okay? I hope you'll get it. Bnei Ephraim, נושקי רומי קשת, הפכו ביום קרב. לא שמרו ברית אלוקים, ובתורתו מענו ללכת. Psukim in Tehillim. He speaks here about Bnei Ephraim. Ephraim was one of the Shvatim, right? Yosef, Manasseh, and Ephraim. So he speaks about Bnei Ephraim, and he says that they were fighting. נושקי רומי קשת, קשת is an arrow. הפכו ביום קרב. They went to a fight, but they lost. They ran away. They was defeated. הפכו ביום קרב. Why? לא שמרו ברית אלוקים ובתורתו מענו ללכת. Because they didn't. Be aware of this. ברית אלוקים. We have a covenant with Hashem. And they didn't keep it. And that they did not want to go according to the Torah. Says the Metzudas, on Tehillim, בני אפרים, רוצה לומר, אם כי ראו אשר בני אפרים, שעל כי בטחו בכוחם, כי היו מזוינים נושאי חיצים ומורים בקשת, לזה מיהרו את הקץ לצאת ממצרים קודם הזמן. So there is a medrash, that before Moshe Rabbeinu took the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim, Bnei Ephraim made some calculation, and it was wrong calculation, and they decided that the Golus of Mitzrayim is ended. So they went, they thought so, but they put it in action, right? מיהרו את הקץ לצאת ממצרים קודם הזמן, וסופם הפכו עורף לנוס ביום קרב. They lost the battle, they went to Eretz Yisrael, they went to the south, they got to Kiryat, to Gat. Gat was one of the 5 cities of the Plishtim. They went to Gat, והרגום אנשי גת, כמו שכתוב בדברי היומם. Like it's written in דברי היומם. So what we see over here, Hashem says to Avraham Avinu, there is a decree that there will be a galus. ידוע תדע כי גר יהיה זרעך בארץ לא להם בריס בין הבשרים, ועבדו ועינו אותם 400 שנה. And there is a number, 400 years. Now, they knew this. Ephraim was the son of Yosef. His sons also know Torah. They knew about Bris Ben Abesarim. So they made calculation about the 400, and they got it wrong. Because if you remember, when we went out of Mitzrayim, we just read it, כתוב, ומושב בני ישראל אשר ישבו במצרים 430 שנה. Where come the other 30? 430. So there is a whole thing in the Meforshim about this, the Ramban, the Rashi, and actually based on the Medrash that Bris Ben Abitorim was when Avraham Avinu was 70 years old, and Hashem told him, Ki ger yeh zar'acha, from the time that you'll have a zera, from the time that Yitzchak. So the Bris Ben Abitorim was when he was 70, but actually it started to count from the late of Yitzchak. Okay, they made the calculation wrong, and they went out of Mitzrayim 30 years before. Because according to their Chashbon, it's 400 since the Bris Ben Abesarim. They went, they didn't ask anyone. They went, they have army. As it says, היו מזוינים נושאי חיצים ומורים בקשת. They have army. They went trusting their strength and relating it to Hashem because Hashem said 400 years. And they lost. Haragum, they were killed to the last one of them. We find out that the Golus is not something that we could know. There are another precedent. Again, for this you have to know Tanakh and history. Yirmiyahu Hanavi says that after Bais Rishon destroyed, after 70 years, כי מלאת לבבל 70 שנה, I will take you out from this galus. And it was few times to calculate the 70 years from when. Either from Nebuchadnezzar become a king, or from he went to Yerushalayim first time, 11 years before the destruction of Beis HaMikdash, or when actually Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Many people made mistake about this. Achashverosh, we just said Purim, right? Why he did the Mishteh? Because according to his Cheshbon, the 70 years passed and was no Geula. But Daniel also, Daniel himself, didn't really, it was not clear to him. And we saw that the 70 is not according to what you could calculate. Not by the Bris Ben Abesorim, not by Rishon. You could not calculate it. And the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that asur lechashev et haketz. You are not allowed to make calculation based on psukim, because the psukim could have more than one meaning. Okay, now the base of the thing that you should all know. The psukim in Shir HaShirim. השבעתי אתכם בנות ירושלים בצבאות, או בעילות השדה, אם תאירו ואם תעוררו את האהבה עד שתחפץ. So this is a pasuk in Shir HaShirim. Shir HaShirim, you have to know, is a Kodesh Kadoshim. Not me saying it, Rabbi Akiva. Kol kitvei HaKodesh Kodesh, Shir HaShirim is Kodesh Kadoshim. What's the difference between all the ksuvim to Shir HaShirim? In all the ksuvim there are 4 levels. Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod. Pardes. Not in Shir HaShirim. The pay is not there. There is no pshat in Shir HaShirim. The entire story is a mashal. So therefore, it's a Kodesh Kodashim. In the Drash level, the 3rd level, Pshat, Remez, Drash, in the Drash, says the Medrash on this, Hishbati etchem bnot Yerushalayim, meaning the Jewish nation, me, Hashem. Hashem is talking now to Knesset Yisrael. And he say, I'm making you, אני משביע אתכם, I make you by shvuah. Don't try to wake up the ahava, meaning the connection between me and you, עד שתחפץ, until I will want it. Okay? Says the Medrash. Where is it? I thought it's a Medrash Rabbi, just a second. Here. It's mentioned in the Gemara in different version. I mean, there is a whole Gemara in Maseches Ksubis, Machlekes Amoraim, if you're allowed to go at the time. From Bovel to Eretz Yisrael, yes or no. But the Medrash, what the Medrash says? רבי חלבה אומר, 4 שבועות יש כאן, השביע הקדוש ברוך הוא לישראל שלא ימרדו על המלכויות, ושלא ידחקו על הקץ, ושלא יגלו מסתורין שלהם, ושלא יעלו חומה מן הגולה. So there are 4 shvuos, according to the Medrash, 2 of them. First of all, לא ידחקו את הקץ. Don't try to say, okay, this is the end of Golus. It's not up to you. Don't try to do it. The other thing is, שלא יעלו חומה מן הגולה. We'll see what Rashi says. Not in the Medrash. Rashi says it in the Gemara. You are not allowed by force from the Goyla and go redeem yourself and go to Eretz Yisrael by yourself. This is a shvuah. And it says, if you will do it, I will make you, your flesh, like hefker, like the ayalot v'tivot hasadeh. Says the Medrash, Im ken, lama melech HaMashiach ba? If so, what is the job, the mission of Mashiach? This is the mission of Mashiach. So it's not your mission. This is the mission of Mashiach, lekabetz galuyoten shel Yisrael. It's the job of Mashiach. It's not the job, it's not your initiation. You are not allowed to do it. This is the job of Mashiach. That's what the Medrash says. Rashi says on the Gemara, שלא יעלו בחומה, says Rashi, יחד ביד חזקה, Very important, because we know that during the history, Gedolei Israel, some of them, as individual, went to Eretz Israel. Ramban, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, the Gra, the Talmidei Gra, but they do not came as a nation that said, it's ours, we're going to take it by force. This is Shelo Ya'alu B'choimo, Yachad, Beyad Chazaka. Now the Gemara says, Ishbati etchem, if you will do it, בצבאות ובעילות השדה, אמר רבי אלעזר, אמר להם הקדוש ברוך הוא לישראל, אם אתם מקיימים את השבועה מוטב, ואם לאו אני מתיר את בשרכם כצבאות וכעילות השדה. מתיר את בשרכם לשון הפקר. Now we have to know, we could not say it for sure. I'm not a spokesman of Hashem. But if you analyze the history, you could see the hashgacha of Hashem. The idea of the Zionism to go to Eretz Israel was when? Approximately 130 years ago, 140 years ago. Then there was the Zionist congresses in Vienna, right? As I said, the Zionism was a daughter of the Enlightenment. What they say in the Enlightenment? In Berlin, it started in Berlin of Germany. We are not obligated anymore to the Torah. They change the idea of what Jewish means, what it means to be Jewish. And the first time in the history, they said you could be Jewish without doing any mitzvahs, without any connection to Hashem. You have to be blind, completely blind, not to see the hashgacha. 150 years, almost exactly 150 years, after the Enlightenment was established in Berlin, from Berlin came a person who said to the Jews, you are not Germans. The Jews who mixed marriage and become even more German than Germans. And the entire idea of Nazism, of Hitler, he took and put in concentration and death camps people who were, father was German, the mother was Austrian, but the grandmother was Jewish. You're not Jewish. 4 generations. That, by the way, that was the laws. Nuremberg law, 4 generations. This is apparently, amazingly, the law in the Torah. How do you verify that someone Jewish? You have to count 4 generations mothers. Amazing. So actually what happened? The Jews in Berlin says, we do not want to be Jewish anymore in the old fashion. We want to be like all the other, we're Germans. They say, we are Germans. Hashem sent someone that told them, you cannot do this. And if you'll do it, matir et besarchem. You know, it's hard to imagine someone who think that they could explain the Holocaust. But again, it's amazing. I don't explain the Holocaust. In the Holocaust, for sure, many tzaddikim, Yeshorim, Temimim was killed. So you could not say it's because of this. But we know that Kol Yisrael Arevim Zelozeh. We know that there is something called Gilgul Neshama. Hashem is a tzaddik. Kol drachav mishpat el emunah ve'en avel tzaddik v'yasharu. So we are not here to judge Hashem. But you should be blind just to separate the events. From Berlin come the kfirah, from Berlin come the punishment. And this is matir et besarchem. And the Zionism was before that, right before that. The Zionism was interpret the idea of the Enlightenment to now let's go to Eretz Israel, but establish there a state that will have no connection to Torah, to Hashem. That was the answer from Shammai. So we see that it's really happened. Now, I don't know how much time you have. I want to show you an amazing thing. We have the night? Fine, great. You're taking a risk, I'm telling you. But fine, let's do it. No, I'm not. Okay. I'm going to move to a different thing and show you an amazing thing that happened 900 years ago the Jewish community in Yemen, which was very far from any other Jewish communities in the world, has a phenomena that happened in different places among Jews during the history, has a Mashiach Sheker. Someone came and claimed that he is Mashiach. And he was probably, has some shticks and some things, and people went after him. They were his followers for Hasidim. And it caused a big, big problem, because the Muslims at the time heard the news that the Jews want, they have Mashiach, and this Mashiach is not just to redeem them, but to rule the world. So it was a big problem, big gzeirus on the Jewish community in Yemen at the time because of this Mashiach. Afterward, this Mashiach was killed. I don't know how, it doesn't matter. And was a big crisis in the community. The Rav of the community at the time, 900 years ago, didn't know what to do. So he sent a letter to the Rambam. The Rambam was at the time the doctor of the king of Egypt. It was a whole big story. He was in Spain in the beginning, but he has to move. Anyway, he was relatively close. Still, it's different continent. This is Africa, this is Asia. But still, they sent him a letter because he was a Gadol. And the Rav says to him, give me an advice, what to do. So what was the problem? In this community that was usually very, very frum, and that way they were very excited about the Mashiach, when it became false, it was a crisis. Some of them just left Yiddishkeit. Some of them have doubt, but some of them stick still. So the Rav said, could you give me an advice what to do? How to fix the community? He sent him a letter, and the Rambam answered. And I don't know, again, if you're familiar with that, with all the ksavim of the Rambam, there is something called Igeret Teiman. Igeret Teiman is a scroll that he sent to the Rav of the community in Teiman, and he gave him a whole thing about how to look at the crisis and how to deal with it. This Igeret Teiman is something that you really, really need to, everyone has to learn it thoroughly. I won't just quote few lines from there because it's so relevant to what's happening today. Those are the words of the Rambam from Igeret Teiman. על העת הקשה הזאת שראה הנביא במחזה, התחיל להעתיר בעדינו ולהתפלל עלינו. Can I assume that you could read and understand Hebrew? Okay. So anything that's not clarified, because it's not just regular Hebrew, it's the word of the Rambam, so some of them are not clear even for Hebrew speakers. So he said, relating to the crisis that was in the Teiman, he said, on this particular time, the Navi relate to this because he saw it in Nevuah. What Navi? He speaks about the Navi Amos. In Amos, it says, Va'omar, Amos HaNavi, davening to Hashem, and he says the following, Va'omar, Hashem Elokim chadalna, mi yakum Yaakov ki katon hu. So the Navi says very hard word to Hashem. He said to Hashem, stop it. You could not do this to the Jewish nation because it's too much. They will not get up from this. They will be destroyed. Katonu, Yaakov is little. If you press him with too many decrees, he will be finished. So that the Navi says the Rambam, ודבר זה לא יהרהר בו בעל אמונה, ולא ישליחהו מי שיש לו במשה אמונה, ואין להיות ספק אלו חבלי משיח. And here the Rambam describes something amazing that we have to know, and that will give us a tremendous chizuk. He said the following, what happened in your community, he spoke to this Rav in Yemen, what happened to your community is the Chevle Mashiach. And because the Navi saw it, he was terrified, the Navi. Ad kedei kach that he says to Hashem, please, it's too much. They will not be able to raise from that. So he speaks about those events that happened then, 900 years ago. And he said, en safek, no doubt, להיות אלו חבלי משיח, שהיו החכמים מבקשים מהבורא שלא יהיו מצויים בהם. Famous Gemara in Sanhedrin, Yeisev ולא יחמנה, I really want that Mashiach will come, but I will be happy if I'll not be in this generation. Why? Because it will be very, very hard. How it will be hard? וגם הנביאים, he said not just this נביא, עמוס, יתר הנביאים היו מרעידים בעלותם אותם על רעיונותיהם, not just the תנועים and המוראים, but the נביאים also, and he quote here ישעיהו, תעל לבבי פלצות ביעתתני, וגם בספר הישר, and he quote here from Parshat Balak, the word that Hashem put in the mouth of Bilam, Oy mi yichyeh misumo el. That's a pasuk in Parshas Balak. Oy mi yichyeh. So Bilam saw something and he said, oy, 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 this is problem. Mi yichyeh misumo el. Who could stay alive when Hashem sumo, meaning applying, when he will apply all these events? Now the Rambam goes and says the following. אבל מה שאמרת, he speaks to the Rav in תימן. מה שאמרת שדעת קצת בני עמנו נעדרה ונתבלבלה, ונעה לבבם, והתחדש להם ספק ונתעלפה סברתם. What did you describe to me, says the Rambam to the Rav over there? You told me that some of your people in your community, they were just confused and they left everything. וקצת לא סרו מאמונתם, ולא נתעלפו, ולא חרדו לזה. So some stick and stay firm and the other left. דבר זה, says the Rambam, כבר קדם על ידי דניאל עליו השלום, כמו שהודיענו הבורא, listen to this, כי בהאריך לנו הימים בגלותנו, ובבוא הצרות עלינו, יצאו רבים מן הדת, ויתחדש להם ספק ויטעו. So the Rambam says, the Navi, in Daniel, it says, it's clear that it's going to happen. Now what's the big idea behind it? This is deep, this is complete Kabbalah. I'll just say, some of this. It's all connected to the purpose of the creation, and it's all connected to the first sin in the history, Chet Adam Arishon. In Chet Adam Arishon, Hashem says to Adam, you could eat from all the trees in Gan Eden, but one tree, don't eat from it. What's the name of this tree? Etz Hada'at Tov Vara. Etz Hada'at Tov Vara it's not a regular tree, because Da'at lo tzomachat al eitzim. Da'at is not growing on trees. It's called Etz Hada'at Tov Vara, and the depth in it that there is good and there is evil. And Hashem created the good and evil in order for a person to have two sides, in order to have Bechira. Etz Hada'at Tov Vara is a very, very not good tree. Why? Because over there, the negative and the positive are mixed together. The evil and the good are together. And what's the terrible thing about it? Double terrible. Number one, when you have good and you mix it, infect it with evil, it's ruining the good. But this is the easy part. The worst is that in the bed, because it's mixed, in the evil, there is also good. Why it's more dangerous? Because when the evil is evil, who wants to be connected to it? It's evil. But when the evil has in it some good, it's a very powerful tool for the evil to sell itself. He showed the good, and through the good, he drew you to the evil. So Hashem says, don't connect yourself to this thing. But we know that Adam and Chava did it. And then they ruined the world that Hashem created. From then to the end of days, and this is the thing that called in the Kabbalah the Tikkun. The Tikkun is to fix this kilkul. What's the kilkul? That no good by itself, no evil by itself, everything is mixed. And the entire mission of the descendants of Adam, of Chava, which means the entire people, Bnei Adam in the world, but especially the Jews, is to separate again the evil from the good and have the good by itself. In the Kabbalah it says, Nefilat nitzotzot hakdusha letoch klipot hatumah. So the klipa is the thing that that the jail, that in it there is some good. So we need to take all the goods and redeem them, put them back in its place. This is the mission of the entire history of the entire world, especially of the Jews. And every person during the history has in it this thing, and that's the mission of everyone. Everyone has in it a lot of good. The neshama is tahira. But the neshama has in it in the body, and the body has this klipa. So all the challenges that everyone has is their mission, how to separate the evil from the good. Take the good from the evil. Now, there is a concept called birur. It's mentioned in the Divrei Nevi'im, but very subtle. The Midrashim speaks about this also in very not clear way, but the Kabbalah speaks about it, especially the Hasidus, started from the Shla, but the Gra speaks about it, and all the Kabbalah books, the Kabbalah Sfarim, speaks about this process called birur. Now here's the big thing. We have to know, and that could give us a tremendous chizuk. Everything that happened in the world is part of this process. Each one of the people in the Jewish nation was born in certain generation. No one asked us if we want to be born, to what kind of parents, where in the world, what time in the history. But don't think it's arbitrary. It's planned. Every neshama come to this world in order to do the tikkun. And based on their tikkun, Hashem fit the neshama to a certain body, a male, a female, a Jew, a non-Jew. Give it all the tools in order for the person to have all the tools that he needs in order that if he will want, with his free will, with his bechira, he could fix it. Now we are at the end of the history. And it says, again, there is a lot of hakdamas that we should learn in order to really understand it. The Ari HaKodesh speaks about this, that there is concept called Odom Bli Ya'al. Gam et ze l'umat ze asa Elokim. There is Kedusha, and parallel to this there is a Tumah. And actually those two was Adam, the way Hashem created him, and the Nachash. And when the Nachash made the temptation to Adam and Chava, and they agreed, what happened? Those two Adams, the good and the was mingled together. Now the neshamas, all the neshamas kedoshos was in jail in the Adam Blial. So slowly but surely they going out during the history. Says the Ari HaKodesh that at the end of time, that what Chazal in the Nigle called Ikvisa de Meshicha. What's Ikvisa? The hills. Meaning we finished the entire thing, we just now in the bottom. What's in the bottom? The problematic neshamas. So the generation right before Geula will be a generation that has in them tremendous, not good, but there are very, very good nitzotzes. And this is the nisyonis of the end of day generations. So the nisyonis in this generation are worse than any nisyonis that we had before. You have to know, if you do a mitzvah today, a simple mitzvah, you could not compare the impact of the mitzvah to do it now with all the temptation that we have in this generation to someone who lived, let's say, 500 years ago and doesn't have this nisyonis, and he did the same thing. Because lefom tzara agra, it's not based off the fact you did it or not. How much it took from you. So based on this, so we are in generation that to keep mitzvahs, it's the hardest thing, but parallel to this is the reward. But this is the nisyonis of this generation. So this is the entire process called birur. Now there is a pasuk in Daniel. Yitbareru veyitzarfu veyitlabnu rabim. It will be a birur after birur after birur. Now let's go back to the Rambam. The Rambam says, Ki beharich lanu hayamim begalutenu, ובבוא הצרות עלינו, יצאו רבים מן הדת ויתחדש להם ספק ויטעו. וסיבה זו תהיה בראותם דלדולנו ותוקף יד מוננו ויתגברם עלינו. They will see that the Jewish nation are spread all over the world, and the goyim are strong, and they are the rulers, and they make decrees on us, and they say, Jews will say, okay, if we are the chosen people, how come Hashem put us in such a situation? So some people will say, okay, it's not worth to stay Jew, and they just left, okay? But he said that some of them, יצאו רבים מן הדת, many, will get out of יידישקייט ויתחזק להם ספק ויטעו, וקצתם לא יתחדש להם ספק, ולא תתבלבל סברתם, שנאמר, and here I bring the pasuk in Daniel, יתבררו ויתלבנו ויצרפו רבים. It's all challenges, nisyonis. What's the idea of the nisyonis? Let me give you this mashal. When you dig in the ground in order to take gold, right? The gold comes with a lot of things that not belong. A lot of psilas, a lot of something that not belongs. So what do? You take this entire thing, you put it in the kura ituch, in the big oven, adjust the temperature to the temperature of the gold, so only the gold will stay. Everything else either will burn or will stay aside. That's why in Lashon HaKodesh, how do you call a jeweler? Someone who deals with gold. What's the name of it in Hebrew? Lashon HaKodesh. Tzoyref. Why tzoyref? Tzoyref is letzoref, right? Mitztoref leminin. So what's tzoyref? When you have the gold and within it there are things that not belong, they separate the gold. When you take them out, you mitzaref the gold together. That's the reason why it's called tzoyref. So this is the idea. The Jews, during the history, and this is a whole big story, I have a whole series about this. When Moshe Rabbeinu took us out of Mitzrayim, the entire idea of Golus, Shi'abud Mitzrayim was to purify from the Chet Adam Rishon. That's why Hashem told Avram, Yadoa teda ki ger yeh zaracha be'eretz lo lahem, va'avadum ve'inu otam. The purpose of this, explained the Ramchal based on the Kabbalah, to purify. Yisurim memarkim avoinus. So we were in Mitzrayim. We was avodim, meshubadim, meunim. Time to get out of Mitzrayim. We went out of Mitzrayim, right? But here's the problem. Vegam erev rav ala itam. So after the Jewish people, Bnei Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, was purified, they went out of Mitzrayim, but erev rav also came with them. Those erev ravs, Moshe Rabbeinu took them, and he has a cheshbon. Again, it's Kabbalah, Sfiras Hadas, and Moshe Rabbeinu was from Das the Kedusha, Bilam and his sons, which is the erev rav, was from Das the Tumah, and because the Das the Tumah has the erev rav meaning irbuv, meaning there is good in the bed, because if not, it's not the erev, irbuv. So Moshe Rabbeinu, the idea was to take the Kedusha out of it, so he thought, I'll take them out, they will do tshuva, and fine. And that was his cheshbon, but we know they caused the Chet HaEgel, and says Rabbi Isaac Chover, the third generation from the Gra, that they are, during every generation, those people, there was Nevi Abal and the Asherah, it was Jews, but Erev Rav, and there were the Jews that machti the Jews during the entire history. At the end of days, they will be, as the Zohar says this in Bereshis Daf Kaf Hei, that at the end of days, they will be the leaders of the Jewish nation, the Erev Rav. And they will cause hachta'ah. And that will be the challenge for those who has the challenge to be chayta, and for the Erev Rav themselves. Because everyone from the Erev Rav has good in it, in him. And he could overcome the evil. But it's obviously harder. But this is his tikkun, this mission. So if you understand all of this, you could understand what's going on. And let's go back to the Rambam. He says that the entire things that's going to happen to the Jewish nation is just to check out the pure gold. This is the idea. And this is what Daniel says. Yisbararua, the bearer is to get to the pure gold and set aside, take aside all the things that not belong. That's why, says the Rambam, will be those challenges. And those people who choose to leave, it's part of the plan. Of course, they have Bechira, but if they choose to leave, it means that they should be out in order to keep the good ones separated from them. But it's a long process. Now, what the Rambam says over here is amazing, because look at the continuation. He said, Daniel said that. דבר זה קדם לנו על ידי דניאל שהודיענו כי בעריך לנו הגלות, יהיו כאלה שיהיה להם ספק, some of them will stay, some of them will leave. Now we continue. הוסיף לבאר לנו שאפילו המשכילים ההמה, those after the first wave, those who still was faithful to Hashem, will come another wave bigger than the first one, and even those who survived the first one will have a challenge in the second one, and not all of them continued. That's what he said. שאפילו המשכילים האלה והמבינים שעברו עליהם צרות ועמדו כנגדם ונשארו באמונתם בהשם ובמשה עבדו, עדיין יעברו עליהם צרות קשות ורעות יותר מן הראשונות שעמדו כנגדם, עד שיתחדש להם ספק ויטעו ויטעו. ושלא יתאר להם כי אם מעט מזער, לא יישאר. So the entire thing is a mirror. The entire thing is a mirror, because the Geula at the end of time, when Hashem will set the Geula, will set the Mashiach, it will be only for the pure gold. Anyone who does not belong will mix marriage, will go there, will go out. They will not be part of the Geula. Now we continue and said something amazing. ועתה אחינו, חייבים אתם להטות אוזניכם. My brothers, you have to really listen carefully מה שהסדר לפניכם, ותלמדו לטף ולנשים, teach everyone, even little children, even ladies, כדי שיתקיים להם מה שיסתפק מאמונתם. Be מחזק them in their אמונה, because it's crucial. If they will be not strong, they will just move aside. ויתחזק בנפשותיכם האמת שאין לזוז ממנה. ויצילנו הבורא ויצילכם מן הספק. Now look what he said over here. With this I'll conclude it, showing you something really amazing. וכבר הבטיחנו הבורא יתברך, כאדם הנכנס ערב לחברו. Like an Orev. Someone come to me and say, I want to lend some money from you. So, okay, I have a gemach, for sure, but I don't know you. How do I know that you're going to return it, right? So you say, okay, there is someone that you know, and he could be guaranteed. He's the Orev, right? So says the Rambam, Hashem is our Orev. In what? He promised us something. וכבר הבטיחנו הבורא יתברך כאדם הנכנס ערב לחברו, ודי לנו בערבותו. והודיענו שכל מי שעמד על הר סיני, listen to this, everyone who was in Har Sinai, שהם מאמינים בנבואת משה רבנו ובכל מה שבא על ידו, הם ובניהם ובני בניהם עד עולם. שכן אמר השם יתברך, הקדוש ברוך הוא says to משה רבנו before מעמד הר סיני, you know why I'm doing this? Why I'm going to reveal in front the entire nation. So those are the words of Hashem. הנה אנוכי בא אליך באב וענן, בעבור ישמע העם בדברי עמך, וגם בך יאמינו לעולם. Anyone who were there and see Ma'amad Har Sinai, they will believe in Moshe, in the Torah's Moshe, in Hashem, le'olam. What's le'olam? Not just this generation, all the generation, forever. Says the Rambam, and those words are so difficult to understand. לפיכך, therefore, יש לדעת שכל מי שנטע מדרך הדת הנתונה במעמד ההוא, שאינו מזרע האנשים ההם. Well, the words of the Rambam. Meaning, let me explain to you what that means. During the history, if you find a Jew that left Yiddishkeit and didn't do tshuva and died koifer, this is the proof that he is not from the seeds of the people who were in Har Sinai. Wow. Strong words. But he said that. And he said this is the meaning of the Haftacha of Hashem. Of course, there is a huge question about this. What do you mean? We know during the history so many Gedolei Yisrael that you do not have doubt that they are the tzaddikim of the tzaddikim. That not all of their children continued. some of their children just left and become koifre ha-koifrim. So, fine. But according to this, it means that their father also was not there. Because if their parents was in Har Sinai, they will never be koifrim. So if they koifrim, now it's make a big question mark on all the former generations. How could we say that? It seems crazy. It's impossible. This is the biggest question. It seems like no answer for this, but there is an amazing answer. I want to share it to you. But what the Rambam says? The Rambam says, see it again. Lefikach, because Hashem promised, וגם בך יאמינו לעולם, therefore, לפיכך, יש לדעת שכל מי שנטע מדרך הדת הנתונה במעמד ההוא, שאינו מזרע האנשים ההם. So this is the Rambam. Ramban, amazingly enough, agree with the Rambam here. And the Ramban said that in a different place. On his Perush in the Torah, when it comes to Parshas Nitzavim, at the end of Sefer Devarim, right after Parshas Kisova, right? So after the Toichechav, Kisova, in Parshas Nitzavim it says, Atem Nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Hashem Elokechem, leovrecha bivrit Hashem Elokecha uv'alato. There is a pasuk. And the Ramban says on this pasuk the following. Okay, there are so many things that there is no way now to cover. This is the pasuk. Parshas Nitzavim, Perek Kaftet. Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Jewish nation after, it was the last day of his life, after he gives the Teichecha, and the Teichecha he says, if you will listen, there will be this way, if not this way. Then in Parshas Nitzavim he did another, le'ovrecha bivrit Hashem Elokecha uv'alato, another bris, another covenant, and he warned the Jewish people, and he said the following, Pen yesh bachem, ish or isha or mishpacha or shevet, a man, a lady, a family, or a tribe, asher levavo poneh hayom me'im Hashem Elokeinu, that his heart turned away from Hashem, meaning, לעבוד עבודה זרה, לעבוד את אלוקי הגויים ההם, and he called it, פן יש בכם שורש פורה ראש ולענה. Maybe you have some root that could produce something bitter. That's the words of the pasuk. Says the Ramban. On this pasuk. ואמר פורה ראש, לרמוז, it's a hint. כי משורש מתוק לא יצא מר. No such a thing. If you put seeds in the ground and it's sweet, never ever will be a bitter fruit to this. Right? Now he says the following. וכל אשר לבבו שלם עם השם הנכבד, we're talking about the generation there at Moshe Rabbeinu time. If someone has all his heart with Hashem, his heart did not turn to avodah zarah, וכל אשר לבבו שלם עם השם הנכבד ולא הרהר כלל בעבודה זרה, לא יוליד מודה בה. He will never have children that will admit that avodah zarah is something. Because משורש מתוק לא יצא מר. Continue the Ramban. How it's possible? ואל תקשה עלי בזה מן הכתוב ביחזקאל והוליד בן פריץ. He asked a very good question. He didn't ask what we asked before. We see in our eyes tzaddikim that have Rishonim children. He asked even bigger question. The Navi Yechezkel said in Nevuah that could be a possibility that will be a tzaddik, v'hoilid ben poritz, and his son is a wicked. So it's just the opposite of what I just said the Ramban. So the Ramban says, I'm aware of this. Don't ask this question. ואל תקשה עליי. Don't ask on me. בזה מן הכתוב ביחזקאל והוליד בן פריץ. What do you mean? Why not? And how he relate to this? He said it in his special way, the Ramban, very mysterious. He said, כי אמת הדבר, it's true what I said, וסוד גדול לא אוכל לפרש בו. Wow. You aware of the question? He asked it from the different nevuah. So what I said is just against what the Navi said, and the Navi is right. Don't ask. It's not a question. what actually he said, there is an explanation. I'm not allowed to tell you. It's a big secret, Sod gadol, lo ucha lefaresh. So actually he's saying exactly the same thing of what the Rambam says, that anyone that was in Ma'amad Har Sinai and saw there the Ma'amad Har Sinai will never be kofer, not him and not any of her descendants ever. So this question is a big question, and the Ramban, aware of the question, he refused to tell us. He said, I could not, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. And here comes the amazing process. You know, why the Ramban says I could not tell you? Because it's a big secret. There is a pasuk in Tehillim, we say it. Sod Hashem li'ireyov. Hashem has secrets. And he knows how to protect his secrets. He revealed them only for those who deserve it. In order to know the secrets of Hashem, you have to be Yoreh Hashem. Yoreh Shomayim. Says the Ramban, I know the secret, but I could not reveal it because people who are not Yoreh Shomayim I could not reveal this for people who are not Yoreh Shomayim. So I'm not saying anything. Time passed. Ramban was 850 years ago. Time passed, and about the next generation, 2 generations after, was a big Gadol by the name Rabbi Menachem Rekanati. I don't know if you heard about him, the Rekanati. He was a big Mekubal, one of the Rishonim, Talmid of the Ramban. So the Rekanati relate to the words of the Ramban here in this pasuk, and he said, that's what we learned from the Ramban, but I do not really understand it because he didn't give us the solution. Years after, and it's very important to understand the timing, about 400 years after the Ramban, 500 years back from now on, was the time of the Ari HaKadosh, Rabbi Yosef Karo, and the Mekubalim of Tzfas. So the Ari, his big thing was to reveal or make more clarity in the Sod, in the Torah Sod of the Zohar, so he has all his, whatever he, basically, or the main thing was the spheres that could give you some way to understand the Zohar. One of his Sforim that Rab Chaim Vital wrote in the name of the Ari, called Shar HaGilgulim. And over there he speaks about Gilgul Neshama, reincarnation, and he explained all the amazing and a lot of rules of what Gilgul Neshama, how it's happened, why it's happened, whatever. The generation after the Ari was the Shach, the Siftei Kohen, the Shach. The Shach was a big Mekubal, and the Shach bring the Rekanati that quote this Ramban about Shoresh Porerosh Velana. Look what he said, the Shach. The Shach said it in Perush HaTorah in Parshas Nitzavim. וכתב הרב רקנתי זיכרונו לברכה. פירש הרב הגדול, meaning the Ramban, כי משורש מתוק לא יצא מר, וכל אשר לבבו שלם עם השם הנכבד ולא ירר בעבודה זרה, לא יוליד בן מודה בה. And he says, ואל תקשה עלי, this is still quote from the Ramban, ואל תקשה עלי מזה הכתוב והוליד בן פריץ, כי אמת הדבר וסוד גדול לא אוכל לפרש. עד כאן דבריו, זיכרונו לברכה. says the רקנתי, ואני שמעתי ולא אבין. So the Rekanati quoting this. Now the Shach relate to this, and look what he said. Ve'ulai, and he said that, as maybe, but this is the explanation that's anava. Ve'ulai, כי כוונת הרב זיכרונו לברכה היא, כי אין נקרא בניו אלא החדשים, והצדיק לא הוליד בן חדש, רק אם יהיה צדיק כמוהו. What actually is saying over here? So that's connected to the Torah Gilgulim, and let's just explain the Gemara in Maseches Kedushin, famous Gemara. Shloisha shutofim ba'adam, 3 partners. אביו ואמו והקדוש ברוך הוא. אביו ואמו, the father and the mother, from there we get our body. What was in the original Ofer Min Adamo, that comes in the DNA from the father and the mother. What's the part of the third partner? The neshama. Meaning the neshama we are not getting from our parents. The neshama we're getting from Hashem. But Hashem decides which neshama will go to which body, meaning who will be his partners for this baby. Who will be the father and the mother. In principle, and this is the explanation. Look at this. It's amazing and will explain so many things. What the Ramban says, that Mishoresh matok lo yetze mar, it's only when the neshama of this baby is a new neshama that never was in the world before. Therefore, this father and this mother are the first parents of this neshama. In this case, only then apply the rule that this child must be a tzaddik, because Mishoresh matok lo yetze mar. But if this neshama is a gilgul, meaning this neshama was in the world before, it means that this neshama has a different father in the other lifetime before. So this father is actually his actual father for this, but he's not the only one because he was there in the... So the rule, Mishoresh matok lo yetze mar, it's only when it's neshama chadasha. It's a new neshama. But if not, the neshama comes from the former life with a background. And in this case, it could be that a tzaddik, that it's a real biological father of this child, could have a child but not a tzaddik. This is the explanation, but it's not the end. Let's continue. ואולי, כי כוונת הרב זיכרונו לברכה הוא, כי אינו נקרא בניו אלא החדשים, והצדיק לא הוליד בן חדש, רק אם יהיה צדיק כמוהו. ואם תמצא שהוא פריץ ושופך דם, הוא בן הפריץ הזה. זאת אומרת, הוא בן הפריץ שזה הצדיק הולידו. This is his biological father. ולא היה זה הצדיק אביו הראשון. He was in the world before, then he has a different father. והראיה שלא נקרא זרע, רק הצדיק, שנאמר כי ביצחק יקרא לך זרע. And Avram was a tzaddik. Avram himself was a tzaddik, right? But he has Ishmael, and Ishmael was a Rasha, and he has Bnei Keturah, and they were Rishonim. He did tshuva, but Bnei Keturah. And take Yitzchak. Yitzchak has Yaakov and Esav, and Esav was Esav a Rasha. So how is Esav a Rasha? He's a ben of a tzaddik. This is the explanation. Hashem says to Avram, Ki beyitzchak yikoreh lecha zera, and the Gemara in Nedarim says, beyitzchak velo kol yitzchak, beyitzchak, in Yitzchak. Beyitzchak velo beishmael, beyitzchak velo kol yitzchak, rak beYaakov velo beEsav. Ad kan. So this is the Shach explanation, and that explains the entire thing. Now, the Shach relate to the Rekanati that relate to the Ramban. And here comes Rabbi Yoel. The Divrei Yoel in Pashas Vayishlach. Look. והרקנתי והשח על התורה. גילו סודו. They reveal the secret of the Ramban. שהוא סוד הגלגול. רוצה לומר שבגלגולים הקודמים שורש נשמותיהם ואבותיהם מערב רב. ומשם נמשך בחינת נפש רעה אליו להיות מודה בעבודה זרה חס ושלום. ועל דרך זה התבהר גם כן דברי הרמב"ם. And here Rabbi Yoel took it, he said that will explain also the Rambam in Igeres Teimon. That he said that Hashem promised, so this is the explanation. ועל דרך זה התבהר גם כן דברי הרמב"ם זיכרונו לברכה באיגרת תימן, שכל מי שנטע מדרך הדת הנתונה במעמד הר סיני, שאינו מזרע האנשים מהם. אף שלפי הרעות הוא מזרע האנשים כשרים ומיוחסים. אבל שורש נשמותיהם מערב רב, ואלו הם אבותיו בגלגול הקודם, והם הערב רב המעורבים בישראל שהזכירו בזוהר הקדוש, ומבואר בזוהר הקדוש בכמה מקומות שהגלות היותר קשה הוא גלות ישראל בערב רב. Now that will explain an amazing thing. If you find a tzaddik that have different children, some of them continue and become tzaddikim and the other not. It's connected to the gilgul, the neshamas Of course, you have to remember that everyone who has a background of the Erev Rav means that there is good mixed with bad. It means that he has a Bechira in principle to overcome the evil with the good. He has Bechira, because if not, he has no Bechira, he has to be Rasha. What's the point to bring him to this world? If he is in this world, meaning that there is a chance. But this is the explanation. Now, at the end, you relate to the Golus HaYoser Kasha. Why the worst Golus and the Golus of the Jews, the Yidden, among the Erev Rav? Because when you in Golus by the Goyim, you know, he's Goy. He is not Jewish. But when it's Jews around you, the Jewish, this is the most confusing situation. And that's what's going to happen at the end of days. And that's what's happening now. We see many, many Jews, take even America. We have 6 million Jews in America. You know that this number was there 80 years ago? Right after World War II, after the Holocaust, was 6 million Jews. You know how many Jews should be today? But what happened? Because of the reform and all those atheists, they just left. Out of the 6 million Jews today in America, 5 are not connected. Or only 1 million maybe are keeping Shabbos, keeping mitzvahs, taking Yiddishkeit seriously. The others are in different ways of going out. This is part of the Bureau. Of course, it's put on our shoulders a big achrayus. We have to be makar of everyone. As the Rambam says, you have to teach everyone because they're in a very dangerous situation. They could get lost. So make them hold the emunah, know the truth, and then you'll make them stay. If not, they will get lost. Now, in the big picture, we have to know it's all cheshbonos of Hashem. Of course, there is Bechira, there is Achrayus. Everyone could be good or even better. But at the end, the entire thing is the birur. The birur is that at the end of the day, the Geula will become only for the pure gold. For the one who went through all the challenges, all the temptation. The challenges, why it's worse, Golus? The Golus in America is the best Golus that we ever had. Right? It's a free country. You could be frum, you could do whatever you want. No one But, so if so, why it's a Golus? It's a Golus Ada'as. We mixed up. We think like Goyim. We could perform the mitzvahs, but we have so much influence in the media, in the society, in the business. It's a big, it's even worse than they will force you to be Mechalel Shabbos. They're not forcing you physically, but they influence you in the ideas, in the wrong ideas, that maybe this mitzvah is not that important. This mitzvah, you could just make half of it. This is the challenges. Those are the challenges of the Golus, and that Golus is the worst. Anyone who went through this Golus and stays strong is the pure gold. That Be'ezrat Hashem b'mheira b'yameinu will have Geula.
So I just want to ask you on all these...
Just one second.